Welcome to Everything is Learning, a space for curiosity, growth, and figuring things out as we go. We're glad you're here. Let's get into it.
Hello, and welcome back to Everything is Learning. Today, we're honored to welcome Maát Reed on our show. Maát is a mother/stepmother of 6 as part of a blended family, raising children whose ages span 2 decades and whose stories reflect love, resilience, and growth. Having been raised in foster care herself, Maát brings a deeply personal perspective to what it means to create stability, identity, support, and connection for her children. As a Black mother raising a multiracial family alongside her husband, she navigates the realities of culture, belonging, neurodivergence, and parenting with intention and honesty. Professionally, Maát is the president and founder of On the Move Contracting Services, LLC, a New York State certified MWBE, which is Minority Women Business Enterprise, where she leads marketing, procurement, and communication strategies that help businesses grow and connect with their communities. Today, Maát joins us to share her incredible life story, so far, what shaped her, and how she's raising her humans and the lessons she's learned building a family rooted in love and purpose. Hey, welcome.
Hi. Thank
Yay,
you.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for such a nice introduction.
Easy to say when it's all so true.
Thank you.
So true, so reflective. We're so excited to have you.
Same.
And even though we feel like we all know each other well, one thing that Marissa and I have learned a lot from this podcast is there's always more to learn about each other. So we're really excited to learn from you today. But we're going to start with an icebreaker question.
Okay.
If you and your family had a theme song that played every time you walked in a room, what would it be and why?
It would be Luther Vandross, and it's so amazing to be loved. And the reason why is because if you know the words, it is so amazing to be loved from the sky and the stars and all that's above. So it's everything. It's your family. It's whether you believe in God or, whatever spiritual they believe, my case, God. And all of that is just it. It's just a really calm, great song. Everyone should listen to it. It's very vibing. And that would
It
be
is very vibing. In fact, I got a little goosebumps. I happened to, we got a chance to know what Maát was going to pick ahead of this. So I went and listened to it because I was
I
like,
know.
I know. Oh, sorry. I know of Luther Vandross, but I don't specifically know that song. And it's really good. When you say it's a vibe, it's a beat. I liked it. You should go check it out, Lane. Sorry, I got to look it up.
Check it out because I love Luther Vandross.
Well, it's funny. I asked your cousin, what would you choose? And he said, "We are family." I'm like, no. I mean, we are, but that's just really intense.
No.
Like,
So for our listeners, Maát is married to our cousin, and so she is our cousin, but Maát is married to our cousin, just for context purposes. And why this is really funny about We Are Family, not only is that kind of corny and cheesy, but we have a very, very big family, and we learn more about ourselves each and every time one of us opens our mouths. I know Maát will understand that, and Elena will understand that better, but that was a cute choice.
Absolutely.
Props to Tim.
Yeah, that's too funny. And Maát is also the godmother of my youngest, and her husband is the godfather of my youngest. So we're all very close.
All of your kids are so adorable. Oh my gosh, just the most adorable. You guys are doing such a great job.
You're the best. Thank
you.
That means a lot
because that means a lot because we saw how you raised your humans, and we'd like to emulate that. So speaking of your family, I'm curious about your upbringing, and can you talk to us about how did growing up in and out of foster care shape the kind of parent you strive to be?
That's a really interesting question. So the foster care that I was in was really not typical foster care. So what I mean by that is at the very beginning of my life, when I was 3, my mother found Monroe County had a day foster care program. So, it's like a daycare center. You drop somebody off at somebody's house, but it was in-home daycare, which was very unique at the time. So my particular in-home daycare was Pat Pascal and her husband, Norm. And they were just a dynamic wonderful husband-wife duo. They had 3 children of their own. They fostered, or foster daycared a bunch of us, and my mommy Pat, that's what I call her, she was going to school to be a nurse. My daddy Norm worked during the day, so during the day she watched us. When he got home, she would leave and go to school, and he would watch us. So it was really those 2 watching us all the time. So it would be like a 9 to 5 situation, but my mother would drop me off on Monday and then come back like 6 weeks later. So with
Oh,
that
wow.
said, my foster daycare family, they called my social worker and said, "Number 1, we want you to know this," because they can't just keep me, they had to be fully transparent, and the social worker said, "If it's not bothering you, it's not bothering us. All that will happen if you tell is she'll be taken from you and put into foster care." So I
Oh,
basically lived with them for about 8 years, and that was
wow.
really great. I was back and forth. My mother would come sometimes to pick me up. They would wish she would not because she was just in not a good place. So when I was 8, or actually think I was 10, when we moved out of the city and moved to Henrietta, or West Henrietta, and once you're out of the city, you're no longer a part of that program. So I was probably 10 or 11 when we moved, and my mother would reach still into her past, and I would have these babysitters, but she wouldn't pay them. So imagine if you're like 18 and you would babysit, and then at the end you'd get no money, you're not coming back. So so we went through a lot of babysitters. And then
Wow.
I had a big sister. So one of the replacements of foster care was the Big Sister Big Brother program, and my big sister was only 22. She had graduated from, like, the Simon School, wherever she graduated from. She's super smart. She went to Xerox. She was an engineer or something like that at Xerox, and she, again, was 22 back in the 70s and early 80s when women were not appreciated in the workplace. You barely could get a bank
Yeah.
account, and the people that were there, the guys were not like, "Oh, wow, here she comes, taking our jobs." So it was very isolating for her, and she became my big sister, and she would do the big sister things, take me to the movies, blah, 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 blah. Well, one day, shortly after we moved to Henrietta, my mother went off the deep end and put me into something called PINS, which is maybe parents or persons in need of support or supervision or something. And really, she did it because she was then went into our wing. So she did it with purpose. Um, but it was like, yeah, could you imagine being 13, getting off the bus and or 12, getting off the bus and someone just taking you and putting you into hardcore foster care? So that
Oh,
wasn't very nice.
wow.
And I called my big sister and said, "Can you help me?" Which launched into her becoming my official foster mother. And so she went to court. She became my foster mother at 22 and became a full-time parent. And so the women that shaped me are women who, I mean, right there, that is very, um, supportive and risk-taking. Take on some kid you
That
met like
was
5
brave and
times.
courageous.
Brave,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and also with my original parents, the foster parents, seeing that dynamic of that husband and wife working so hard to keep that family, from ever having a babysitter, and doing the babysitter thing with us, I had great times, all the way around. I was fortunate, and so the women who I watched were strong women in the workplace that worked hard, and then there was Claire Huxtable, and she was the other one from The Cosby Show. So those 3
Hmm.
women.
Those are good choices. And
Yeah.
Yeah.
I actually just learned a lot more about you. I had known of some of this, but I did not know in this way and in this sequence of events and how old you were when some of this happened. So thank you for sharing
Yeah,
that.
yeah.
To your point earlier about your foster care being slightly atypical from other experiences, I'm sort of glad what ended up happened, but like that just because it was different doesn't mean it wasn't not unscary,
Oh, sure.
untraumatic, and all of those things. So, wow, thank you for sharing. I guess uh, now stepping into you as your own woman in the right, and as that role model for others, uh, having a blended family is no easy feat either. like many of what you just described. So I'm curious, what advice would you give couples entering a blended family dynamic?
Interestingly, I just had breakfast with one of my friends who's getting remarried, and she has two daughters that are one is going to be graduating college, one is going to be entering college, and her fiance lives out of the state and he's going to be moving here and he is the father for a 9-year-old boy. So imagine the
Oh,
dynamics for her of blending. And so at first she was like, we are kind of they're gonna move, they're gonna buy a house together, which is great,
oh,
and they live in whatever town they live in, and she was like, "It doesn't matter, I can live anywhere," and we just started talking about making sure you include everybody who's important, and that would be your daughters in the decision. And thinking about if you move out of the town in which they grew up in which they have friends in, and now you
mm,
live somewhere else, how that's going to diminish them coming to see you. So now you feel bad because they went and they stayed with dad because dad stayed in that town and you decided to move somewhere else. So they're like, just stay with dad because it's easy when you're divorced to stay somewhere else. So we just had that conversation and including those girls in making the decision of whatever house it is. Ultimately, parents are the final decision makers for everything. But when it comes down to anything that you're doing, I believe that everybody should have a say in it and that collectively you can get together and make decisions that affect everybody, and then you kind of move forward, and that's the way that we've always been with our family, is it's kind of a collective decision.
Right.
that's
So just to give, like,
wise
kind of a
words.
background, so your husband has 2 older kids,
Mhm,
you had 2 kids, and then
mhm.
you had 2 kids together. So
Right,
6 altogether, and
correct.
then 20 years difference between the oldest and youngest,
Yeah,
and the fact that, like, you're talking about ages with your friend and you're talking about ages with your own family, that dynamic is really challenging to give, because what you're really doing is giving people autonomy and you're giving people a voice in
mhm,
their family so that they stay involved.
mhm,
And I think that that's the thing that a lot of people miss is I think there's this fear, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I think that there's this fear for older generations to give their children voices because back then it was do as I say, not as I do.
mhm,
And it gave an opportunity for potential like talking back. And the fact that you and your husband make sure to keep that constantly moving, and the kids keep getting older and older, some of them have started their own families, like, it's really interesting to because you guys are about to be empty nesters, right?
are we?
Sort of.
I was gonna say, uh,
You
living
also
so
take
close,
people
yeah.
in.
Yes, I was
No,
just
we're
gonna
not
say,
taking
living
anyone else in. But Garrett is entering our youngest is entering, he's a freshman. So he's got to go through 3 more years of school, and then
Mhm.
he's got to have at least probably 2 years to figure out. So, we're what, 5 years? So, I
That's
think
true.
I mean, we get a week at a time sometimes.
right there. I was just gonna say,
Right.
because he lives on campus, doesn't he?
He does live on campus.
Okay,
But, Connor, our other one, he's graduating in a month, and he'll be living at home, so
okay,
he'll be here all the time,
okay.
and he's got his own thing, and he's gonna start his own life, and, the thing about including your children, even from the ages that your kids are, is it
Mhm.
helps them to formulate how to speak to others when they're
Mm.
adults, how to conflict resolute when there are situations. We talk a lot with our kids about whatever happens and how we handled it because it's important for them to know that no matter what comes your way, number one, have faith first. Like that is always our thing. Always
Mhm.
pray for the right decisions. But the second thing is to know that life is not a walk in the park, man. It is gonna have a whole lot of hills that you gotta like straddle and how you handle that is important. So if we don't include them in the decisions that we make, which sometimes can be really big decisions, then how's it going to matter when they're older? How will they make those decisions if they haven't learned it all the way along?
For
Right.
sure. I Not only do I love what you said, but the faith first really speaks to, for those of our listeners who've been with us for a while, our guest Connor, Maat is his mother. So
Yes.
you'll have heard him speak very openly and wonderfully about his faith. And it just really makes sense. Like, because you've incorporated him in your decision making, so much of how you're expressing yourself really came across in our
Aw,
connect with him. So
awesome.
that's really cool to see. But I am curious. So, given the fact that in the scenario with your friend that you had indicated, I love that not only did you suggest she include them because the daughters do have another option, but how are they feeling about or even your friend feeling about someone whose age span is so different from her own children, right? It's like redoing a childhood per se, because now
Right.
this 9-year-old is back in the home. And because Elena had pointed out the unique patterns of how your children worked, you experienced that same thing. I'm curious to know
Exactly.
how that's all shaking out.
So, for her, she's very excited because it's not her child. She's
Mm.
excited to support her fiance, soon to be husband, in his journey of raising this young man. So she's excited about being a wingman, which is really important as a step parent.
Sure.
Those children, they have their own parents. You're not it. And so, sure, you're going to have rules inside of your house that you're going to expect when those children are there. But when they leave, that other parent has whatever they have as far as rules, and you have to really respect that. That it's
Mm.
not like you can't really say anything about it. It's not your house, and really they're not your kids. So you have to realize that, and that's a hard dynamic. So I
For
was
sure.
really excited when she said that she's excited to help support whatever it is that he's doing. And he's moving from another state here and excited to introduce his son into sports or whatever it is that they do. And so I don't think that she took a step back and thought like, wow, I have another 12 years to raise somebody. I think she took a step back and said, I'm gonna because he has that kid no matter what he does, right? He's got it
Sure.
like he's got another 12 years no matter what. So
Sure.
so for her to have that opinion and that approach, I think is really healthy.
I
Super
agree.
healthy. I don't know that
Yeah.
it's somebody's, like, I don't think people are naturally hardwired that way.
Mm-mm.
'Cause I was thinking the same thing, Marissa, that you implied, which is, like, if he's 9, she's got 12 more years of raising somebody. But it's really interesting that you said the way that you said it was interesting. And your approach is always to everything in life is always so, um it just makes more sense, but
Aw,
it's
thank
not the
you.
way that society, uh kind of controls the narrative, right?
Mm.
So, like, I feel like whenever you see in media about the step parents, right? They're evil, typically. Like, look at Disney.
Thanks, Disney. Yeah.
Eh,
Right.
there's some
They're
facts in that
control
though.
right, and then they're
Telling you.
controlling, or there's some
Facts in
kind of
that
an
too.
issue. And
Facts in that too.
more recently, I feel like in shows, it's been the dynamic of like multiracial step parents and that
Uh-huh.
interaction about like if the child is white and the step parent is black, or if the step parent is white and the child is Asian, or whatever it might be, and the cultural differences between
Mm.
that. And I have not seen a really healthy version like you're explaining. I've never seen that before besides you, where it's like, I have stepchildren. They have their own parents, my husband and their mother, and I love them and treat them like my own children, but I know that they are theirs.
Yeah.
And that blows my mind because I think that really should be the narrative, but there's family dynamics are so tricky. And
Right.
the reason that I think you are such a I don't know, pillar in our family is because you come at things very practically, but with a lot
Mhm.
of heart and a lot of like
Honesty.
thought.
That's for
honesty,
sure.
transparency, thought. Like, you're not afraid to tell people, like, or question or be curious. You know, you're like, "Well, why do you feel that way?" Or, "Why do you think that?" Or, "Why did
Mhm,
you just say
mhm,
that?"
mhm, mhm.
And that way that you do that, I think is really inspiring, and I think that you are kind of a pillar and a poster child for curiosity in the
Aw,
sense that
thanks.
but you really do. You ask so many questions because you genuinely want to know, and you are always so open to learning and growing that it makes total sense to us who know you personally that you have this family that works. And of course, there's
Mhm.
dynamics in it and things like that that you navigate, but like having an interracial marriage, having multiracial children, and some of them are step and some of them are half and some of them are full, like with your marriage. How did you navigate that?
Well, that is interesting because we never make a big deal out of it. But I want to take a step back first about the step parenting real quick. I just
Yeah,
want to take a step back for I think that when it can happen, when people get married, you're married. You hope that your husband loves you more than he's ever loved any other girl before, right? I mean, like that's what you're
Very
married for.
true.
So
True.
now this guy has kids with somebody. And so there's a natural feeling for people to be like, well, don't you love me more? And never, because you're not my mother or you're not my
Right.
father. So
Exactly.
so it's just a dynamic that somebody in inherently just feels because they want to be loved or feel important in it. And sometimes it's hard to say, I'm not really important in this, the kid is, and I just need to worry about what's best for that child and, whatever the parent is saying is the parent. So that's what I think there. And then as far as the biracial, it is really hard because our kids have gone to schools that have very few um but like maybe 5 black kids in the whole school, and I grew up that way as well. I mean, I think I was one of 3 in our school. I didn't really care. It didn't bother me at all, but as I see these children, and sometimes the influences that they have to engage are shocking. I'm going to give you an example. Our daughter's in 3rd grade. They were learning about slavery. And she, again, is in a school. I think she was like maybe 2 black kids, maybe 3. And so the teacher said, okay, stand up. Now, Lindsay would be your slave. And so, how do you think that made her feel?
Horrible. My gosh, I can't even believe a teacher was allowed to say that out loud. I
Yes.
like
So,
and
there's an
this is
example.
3rd
did
grade.
they
Like,
get
I don't know
fired?
anybody. Yeah, I
No,
was just
no,
gonna
but
say.
I definitely did not use that teacher with any of my other kids. So, with that said, it's things like that, it's things like that that happen in culture differences, and it is
Microaggressions.
really
Except that was a macro aggression, but yeah.
exactly. Or our other son, Garrett, he went to Eastview Mall. He had a hat on. They lost power in the store, and there were a lot of people in the store, and the other people had hats on too. It was a hat store. So most people who go into a hat store like hats and they have one on. And as he was leaving, the manager ripped the hat off of his head and said, you didn't pay for that. And other people said he came in with that hat. So he, of course, called us, and it was Eastview Mall, and we live about a half an hour from there. And I think we made it there in 15 minutes. And I
Hmm.
went and I interviewed that manager on my phone, and I said, what would make you say that? And he went on to something about how he's mixed and he went to Penfield School and it was really racist, blah, 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 blah. So I'm like, but the
Did you get
point
an
is,
apology?
oh,
Because
yeah,
that's
yeah.
okay,
Okay.
good.
We did get an apology, but it's those things that make you feel when you're in if you all were in any situation where you were the only ones in that race and somebody called you out, you'd be like, "Wait, what?" So, there's a
Sure.
lot of that happens, and I really don't know how to fix it. I can just tell you that the responses to that cannot meet the aggression that comes at you because
Sure.
that's never gonna turn out well. So you have to kinda chalk it up for sometimes people are just, mm, not quite
You
fully
can
with the get it
swear
gene.
if you'd like because that, legitimately that is abhorrent and like to your point it really requires you being able to role model an advocacy
Oh, yeah.
and advocate calm
Oh,
in
yeah.
that and question because ultimately like how you react is what your children are or what
Or,
your
your
humans are going to
yep,
see.
yep, or your cousin who is clearly the exact same color as you, has 10 or 12 black kids that are darker than me saying, "Hey, pops. Hey, dad. Hey," and people will look at him like, "Do you have all those kids? Where's your baby mama?" You know, we don't
Jeez.
care. We just don't care. So, there's that. I think that we've raised our kids to know that the world is the world, and you just need to figure out what's best for you, fit in it as best as you can, and keep it moving. But I will tell you that I understand now why old people stay to themselves because they've had years of people like doing stupid things to them. So
Mm.
that's kind of what
Mhm.
I think.
True.
Uh, uh, at some point, I wanted to because you circled back to about your friend and like the step parent and something that Elena did for her children when they were baptized is they had guide parents, but when she used that term. I have friends at work who are experiencing something similar, and it's a man who moved in with his girlfriend who has two children, and there's a dynamic at play because they're in college, and he happens to have a background in residence life and, student engagement. And the children or the um, boys happen to not want to engage in the same way that he's really accustomed to. And so I'm like, you should treat it as like you're a guide parent, right? You're like a bonus because imagine if you weren't in their lives, like they
Yep.
wouldn't get this experience.
Yep.
And what is really refreshing about your friend's take on this is she's not focused on, I mean, like, it should be about her, and I hope her wedding day is about her, but,
Oh, it
like,
will be.
it's about what how you make what is currently the situation a beautiful one, like, one where
Yep.
you can thrive in,
Yep.
and taking the raising human piece into a factor and the respect that you had named, we don't have a ton of great role models on a, I would say, societal scale, so it's really refreshing when you hear that happening locally, and,
Yep. Yep.
anyway, going back to Elena's question though, Lane, do you wanna refresh and, restate so that we can go back to the interracial piece and the stepchildren versus half siblings and full siblings?
I feel like it must be more challenging. And I don't mean that ignorantly, but in the
What
sense
point
of
or which part?
just having his, mine, ours, but they are all ours, and they also have other parents, and coming in to interweave all of that together, and you're talking about culturally, you're talking about identity, you're talking about navigating the world, and the way that our family runs, like, on a large scale, cousins, aunts, uncles, etcetera, is that it's the more the merrier, and, I don't think that a lot of people feel that way anymore. I feel like it's almost like a 90s mindset of like, "Oh, yeah, have all the kids in the backyard. Oh, yeah, go over to so and so's house." Like, and I love that about our family. But when you think about teenagers and you navigating that, or several toddlers at the same time, or things like that, like going through those motions and making sure that every child has autonomy, making sure that everyone's feeling seen. What experiences can you remember, Mayat, that helped you to understand each of the children and help them kind of become even more themselves?
Well,
Hmm.
I'll give you an example that always sticks out. So Lindsay was a soccer player. She was in 8th grade. Connor was born, and we would go, soccer's outside and it's in the heat, and he's a baby. So some people might say I'm not going because whatever, but not me. So I got a huge, like, beer sort of bucket that was metal, and I would fill it up with water, and then he would swim in this little bucket. So it's just
It's kind of brilliant.
It's
It
like
is
you
brilliant.
just do what you do, and the people, besides a few along the way, the people that we have engaged with have been amazing. They're all in the same boat trying to raise great humans. So
Mm,
you align yourself with those people. The dynamics and the difficulties, I mean, raising teenagers is not easy no matter what it is. They're going to have their own ideals. Maybe you don't want your kid to have a phone, maybe you don't want them to have a screen, whatever it is that you don't want. I could promise you there's 10 people that are doing it. And so it's really, really difficult. And then if you don't want screen time, but if they're at school and that's all they have is great, like there's just so many things that interfere with your ability to raise the kids the way that you want to. But it's understanding and respecting that and keeping those parameters. And just like you all do with your own kids, of making sure they understand that they are not the only person on the face of the earth. They have a brother or a
yes.
sister or whatever the case may be. Go help your brother, go help your sister. Those little things are helpful. And now listen, you're not saying go give your brother or sister a bath because you know they could drown. You're saying the things that are little things like help him pick up his shirt off the floor or whatever the case may be, that opens those children's eyes up to know that there's somebody who's relying on them and that it's important that they meet that challenge. So
Mm,
when you're raising however many kids it is, doesn't matter if it's 1, 10, or 15, for everybody to understand that. And it's interesting because Connor asked me, he goes, "Why didn't you make us do the dishes when we were growing up?" Because we didn't. We didn't, they really had to do nothing. And the reason why is because number one, the other kids, they're visiting kids. So now they started. Now the dad came. Now they don't have to finish. Now you're asking, why did he have to do it? And I don't, who even feels like hearing any of it? I'll just do the dishes. Just go sit down, do your homework. So now that you're older and you get it, you can do all the dishes. You can clean up after us. You can actually cook. You can do all these things that you've watched us do because we don't need to do it anymore. You can do it now. But when you're little, in a family that's a blended family, that was just an easier path of no one was mad because someone left and now there's no one's like, well, he always leaves whenever it is, which quite frankly, if I could leave every time you ask me to do the dishes and I could say, Dad picked me up 5 minutes earlier, who's not going to do that? So to try to
that's a really great point.
eliminate all of it. We just didn't do it. And most big families, everyone has a job. You both will have your kids having a job because you're an intact family.
Right.
Now, the kids, any kid, any one of those kids, when they come, they have to do whatever they have to do. So it's different. And that's how we have kind of pathed it out. Was it a lot on us? Yes. But what if they weren't there? We'd still have to do it. That's kind of the way that I thought about it, is that I'd have to do this no matter what, so what's the diff?
Right.
That's a healthy way of thinking about that. And actually, I
Thank
just
you.
watched something that Elena sent me about the positive psychology. Like, if you think you're already going to say yes, just say yes the first time or just do it the first time because then it doesn't create that battle or that you have to hear something like a complaint, let's say, for the millionth time because the next time it happens, if you cave, then it'll be 1,000,001, right? And then it won't go away. So I think that you getting ahead of that or even having the foresight to think of that, because let me tell you, children, I'm sensing this with my own kids, they'll find a way to escape. Like if they don't want to do something, like give me back your lollipop. I'll run around, they'll do whatever, they'll pretend that they didn't hear me. That's already happening. So I
Oh,
can't even
yeah.
imagine like the exponential piece of that with a blended family. Wow. It's kind of brilliant. I'm going to take that for my own
I,
self.
yeah, but I'm sitting here like, well, gosh, and this is the Maatness of life.
The
Is
Maatness, I love it.
you, you where did you learn that, Maat? Like, you're. It just seems like you come up with these things so quickly, like,
Yeah,
and it just makes so much sense.
it
But
really does.
nobody's teaching these things to other people.
It's called less aggravation. And the other thing is for raising kids is that we like to do what we like to do, and you are benefiting from doing it with us. When we go out on vacation, we take the
Yes.
kids. We don't leave them at home. I was left at home. I mean, like, the little bit of time my mother did have me, if she had a boyfriend, they would go on vacation and then she'd bring me home some stupid sticker. Like I wasn't enriched because I had to stay with who even knows who when you were gone, like all the way around. I don't want that. We never wanted that for our kids. So we bring them wherever it is that we go, and they just need to get in the car, move over, whoever's there. It's life. You just have to adapt, but you're getting those experiences. And as parents, we're all together. And when we look back, we can look back as a family and say, wow, that was great. Not looking back and saying, you weren't there. Like it was
Right.
great for us because they are going to grow and they're going to have their own families and hopefully they'll do the same thing. I mean, Lindsay's doing it now. So it's really great. You guys are doing it now. There's so many things that your parents instilled in you that you are now doing yourselves. And your parents are great. They come, they help, they're so engaged with your family. And it's just wonderful to see.
Yeah.
Sometimes I
You
think they put the fun in dysfunctional, but we do love them.
Okay. It's all good. It's all good.
Um, so you just used a word and now I'm not remembering what it was because Marissa just that
Sorry.
was funny.
I
No,
hate when that happens. It happens to me
no,
all the
no, no,
time.
but you talked about something and it made me think of like having to navigate things kind of on the fly. And I
Uh-huh.
would imagine in the teenage years of raising humans, that was probably something that you had to do. But I'm finding now that
Oh,
I'm even thinking
constantly,
about it, I feel
constantly.
like it's a
You gotta
skill that
stay
you learn as a
10
Yes,
steps ahead
yes, yes.
and think
So,
about
like
every potential thing that could happen now and how's that gonna affect them 10 years down the road.
Does Tim do that though? Is that
No.
just you or does Tim
Yeah.
do that? Yeah,
okay,
okay.
so
No.
we
Tim's like,
just
"Call your
interviewed
mother."
somebody. Yeah. We just did that. We just had a conversation recently, with Tana, her name is,
Yes.
and she talked to us about the mental load, and we were
Yes.
trying to figure out because she talks about it from the female perspective and how females carry a mental load and males don't, and some males
Well,
do
not in
because
the
of
same
different
way.
circumstances.
Yes,
Right,
right,
not in the same
exactly.
way.
Yes.
Um, but
Historically, typically, yes, not in the
right,
same way.
but thinking of that, how do you stay connected to your husband while navigating these different ages and raising these 6 children and navigating other parents? Like, that's a lot. How did you remain connected?
Well, it first starts with, of course, marrying the love of your life. I mean, he is the love of my life. And maybe he feels the same way about me. So
He
with that
definitely
sa
does
Yeah,
because
with
he
he
that
lucked
said
out.
definitely does.
with
He
that said
bet he swung above the bench with you. So
Thank you. So with that said, what we do is we do everything together, right? So our decisions are together. From the when we very first were married, it was right after 9/11. 9/11 happened shortly after
yeah.
we got married. We bought a cottage together because we wanted our kids to be able to grow up like we did. We wanted them to be able to run outside and stay out until 3 in the morning and stargaze and all this stuff and be safe. And so our cottage was a trailer and it was one of our friends. And that is one of the most important things I will tell you. Listening to other people and don't listen to them with envy or jealousy. Listen to them with open ears to say, is that something that I would like? Would that be good for my family? So,
Oh,
this particular young lady who I will always just have such love in my heart for came to work and said that they just bought a cottage for like $4,000 on the lake, on the river in the Thousand Islands. And I'm like, well, that's crazy. Sign me up. Well, so what she bought was a trailer and we bought a trailer also, and we worked on that together. And so that decision to do that, that allowed Tim and I to be able to sit at a fire and kibitz while the kids are right here. So we had dates every night while our kids were with us and they're running around and having a great time. So that's the way that we've always been. Everything we do, we're in a new venture now with a new business and a new building and I'm there helping. Tim's there every day. It's a full-time job. He's folded in our cousin Tom. They're working together like two peas in a pod and our kids go and they help when they can. And so it's kind of like that. And then at the end of the day, we sit together, we talk about whatever it is, and we really are a complete team. And that's why and how it works,
That's great.
Yeah.
if that answers your question.
It
It did.
definitely does. Um, I'm gonna project here a little bit because I feel like it's hard. It's hard when you marry into a family and then you start navigating their systems. And one of the things
Whatever
that
do you mean? I'm teasing.
what do you mean? So you're adding on to this whole other layer of, okay, I have 6 kids. It's his, mine, ours, but they're all ours. And then they're going to have to navigate systems too. And I feel like there's so many things, Matt, that you're hitting on that extend further into life and life choices. And the reason that I bring up marrying into a family, like you married into our family, and now thank God for that. Because you changed our entire family for the better. Like truly, we love you so madly and
I
deeply.
love
But
you so much too.
You keep people connected. Let's just put it that way
yeah, but
kindly.
that's the thing is that, like, learning these big things, like having dates, with your children there and,
No,
vacationing
no, no,
with your children, yes.
not there, but like
No, but, like
over there.
right, right. Not here, you guys are there, we're right here, but I don't think people talk about this stuff enough. And that's why, to Marissa and I, and a lot of our family members, you are such a wealth of knowledge because you approach things differently. You
Yes.
always approach them without shame or judgment.
Mm.
And it's always to help people grow and learn and succeed as themselves. And
Definitely.
what I keep like going back to in my mind, is like, where did you get that? Like, how did you figure those things out that way? Because I know for my husband and I, like, we are a team. Like Marissa and her husband, they are a team.
Totally.
And that was always modeled for us in a different way by different people, like, in the family, but it was something that, like, like, my husband and I get made fun of sometimes for being like, "Oh, why are you guys hanging out? Like, do you guys even have other friends?" And of course we do, we have tons of friends, but
Who
he's
says
my
that?
best friend. People, I'll
That's
tell you
crazy.
offline. But but
It's not me, I
no,
promise.
it's
I
not
hang out
Marissa.
with my husband
But
too.
it's like, we married our best friends. They are our partner. The only thing that we really wanted to do together besides travel is have children. So our children do come on vacation with us. Our children do different things. But we also don't shame people for not doing those things. Like, if people need a break, if people just want to go on vacation with other kids, like, cool.
Do it. Yeah.
But how, like, how do you teach your children, and or how did you learn these major things that are mind-blowing to the rest of us mortals?
Well, the thing about growing up in a dysfunctional family is you have to look at other families and see how they
Mm,
operate, right? But you get to
okay.
pick and choose. Like whatever family you have, if you have a normal family, you don't get to pick and choose. You have that family and that's what you learn. For me, I looked at all kinds of families, all kinds of people. What did I like about what they did? What did I want to fold into my own family? So really,
Mm,
my whole entire everything is brought by other people's parts of the things that they did that I truly liked. There was one lady, my friend, she was great. She said to me, she goes, every Thanksgiving, we take out a tablecloth and everybody writes on it in Sharpie. And so I thought, what a great idea till I did it once. And I said, I'm not doing that again because now I got a tablecloth that's got Sharpie and I don't want to wash it. What am I going to do? It's all stained up because everyone dropped food on it. So I said, I won't do that again. But I tried it once, so everybody has something that is really, really cool that they do. And I have just engage that. Your parents, I love your parents. I could tell you stories that I've talked to your dad about when he was working and what he did. And we would kibitz and he would try to help me with my business and give
Mm.
me ideas because that's what we do. And so all of us are like that. When we think about doing our remodeling project, we didn't think outside of our family first. First thing is who's inside of our family who we can work with on whatever it is. And I think
Sure.
all of us are like that. We have such, you, the Reeds, are just such great people. So, all the way around, that's it, if that answers your question.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think leaning on other people and understanding and being open to learning from other people is kind of the takeaway that I'm taking from what you're saying. And I think
Absolutely.
if people were more open to listening to others, like actually active listening. Actually, my mother-in-law has said that. I wish people knew how to listen now instead of just talk.
Uh-huh.
And
Uh-huh.
it really is valuable to just be able to sit there and not think of the next thing to say,
Mm.
but to really like sit there and listen to what someone is saying and then respond after you take it in. And
Uh-huh.
not everybody can do that easily. But I do think that what you bring to the table, Mayat, that is so inspiring is that you want everybody to be able to have the opportunity to be the best version of themselves, not the best version that you dream up of them, but
No,
the
just
best
themselves.
version that
Yeah.
they can be.
So I just before we just came online, I found out that one of my friends lost their job. And you know what? That happens. And I mean, it's not a friend that I talk to all the time. We worked together in the past, and I've always found him to be dear to my heart. Just a great person. Follow, like we do, follow on Facebook, family's good, you're good, blah, blah, blah. And so I called him. And so many people that find that would be like, oh, that's too bad.
Mhm.
But I called him and not to be nosy or to ask what happened or anything like that, but to offer some things that he's maybe not thinking about that might be timely, like insurances, the things that happen when you lose a job. For other ideas, Cobra would be the obvious, but it's super expensive and there could
So
be other
expensive.
options and all of these things. So I called him to A, let him know that he's not alone, but B, to just talk about things that he may not have thought of, find a headhunter, think outside of the box. You've got a great opportunity. Like one door opens or closes and another one opens is really true. So don't get into yourself and feel some kind of way because that's not going to be helpful. So
Sure.
it's like just reaching out and helping people that really you don't need to do. It's honestly, it's not it doesn't I didn't have to do that. I could have gone on about my day just fine without it, but it's meaningful to help others. And if no one helped me, where would I be? Right? So
Mm,
if anybody who's listening or you all or anybody help others. You see that old lady who's having a struggle getting into her car, ask her if she wants help. Can I put your bags in the car? Teach your kids to do the same thing. If we could all be nice to each other, what a different world it would be?
right.
Absolutely.
It's a lot, you've got
Yeah.
3, you've got 2, I mean, you're in it, you're in the thick of it, and people will say it goes by fast and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe it does, maybe it doesn't. I kinda feel like that you're never done being a parent in every single step. No matter if my son is 35 or 36, I'm loving watching what he's doing with his life at this time, or any age, they're still always your kids, so it's just
I
good.
love that. And it's so that one's really hitting home because, with our parents, becoming in-laws to our now siblings, like, I consider Marissa's husband my brother,
Right.
and vice versa with my husband, but, like, again, that piece of watching your parents transition to a different type of parenting is something that I'm learning while I'm also raising myself. Because I think that's the other thing about raising humans is, like, as we are raising humans, we are also raising ourselves,
100%.
and I I love that you said that because I really agree that, like, I am always gonna want my parents around, and I'm always gonna want my kids to have access to their grandparents, and I think that as long as we can continue to just keep any kind of line of community, um, that that is safe and supportive, then we're all gonna be a lot better off. We always ask, a final question to every guest, this season, and it's, "We believe raising humans is one of the most powerful learning spaces. What lesson do you hope we start teaching more consciously and collectively around the world to make permanent and positive change?"
All right. So, to answer your question, what lessons I hope we start teaching around the world, which right now is just a hot mess, is to understand that everyone tries hard to raise their family, to do a good job, to go to work, to do whatever it is that they're trying to do. And we have to have respect for that. We have to have respect for the things that we don't necessarily um would do in our own lives. We just need to respect that and be kind. Be kind to your family, be kind to the people, be kind to anybody you engage every single day. So important. You don't know what somebody's going through and how that
For sure.
difference will be. And if you do that, you'll teach your kids the same. And then they'll do that. And if we could all do that, it would be a great world.
Agreed. Agreed. Thank you so much.
Thank
And then
you.
can you, for our listeners, if they would like to connect with you, can you give them your website so
Of
that they
course.
know how?
Of course. It's on the move contractingservices.com. If you don't feel like spelling that out, it's on the move cs.com.
Fantastic. Thank you
Thank you
so
so
much for
much.
being with us and sharing your wisdom.
Thanks,
Thank
We look
you.
Matt.
forward to seeing you soon.
Love you guys.
To
Love
our
you.
listeners, stay tuned for our next great guest. Have a good day. Thanks for spending your time with us at Everything is Learning. Keep being curious, keep learning, and we look forward to catching you again next time.